Hi, this video is to talk about hypothesis testing, and this is the main focus of chapter 9. Here I have our slides, and I start describing what we are doing. And what we are doing is we are trying to test the probability of the population mean be a given value. In this specific example, or in a specific case, I'm talking about the population mean, but it could be also population proportion, population variance, could be anything that we want to test. Remember, in chapter 8, we were developing interval estimates for population parameters such as mean and proportion. In this chapter 9, we're going to make assumptions. We're going to say, I think that the population mean is this, or is higher than this number, and then we're going to test using hypothesis test. Okay, so let's talk about hypothesis test first. So hypothesis testing can be used to determine whether a statement about a value of a population parameter is a mean, a standard deviation, a proportion. So we use the hypothesis test to verify if these population parameters should or should not be rejected. Okay. Now let me talk about terminology. That's very important that you understand the terminology because many problems have this terminology. The null and the alternative hypothesis. The null hypothesis is denoted by HO, and the alternative hypothesis is denoted by HA or H1. Okay? So the null hypothesis is a tentative assumption about a population parameter. That's something that we believe it is. For example, people talk every day about many things like, I believe that, for example, in a company, I believe that our stores are selling, I don't know, such amount per day, let's say $100 per day, or we believe that customers are satisfied. So people in companies are always making assumptions about how things are. For example, if you are a marketing professional and then you develop an advertisement campaign and then you're going to make assumptions believing or thinking that people are like more sensitive to the market campaign and so on. So these are the assumptions that we're talking about in null hypothesis, okay? And we have the alternative hypothesis, which is the opposite of what is stated in the null hypothesis. It's a kind of a challenge to the null hypothesis, okay? The hypothesis testing procedure uses data from a sample to test the two competing statements, okay? Let's take a look at one example before I can go back to this slide. So I just want to make sure you understand what null and alternative hypotheses are. Here's an example. A new teaching method is developed that is believed to be better than the current method. So that's a very fair statement. There are every day many professors developing new teaching methods, but how can we know? Or some people believe that that's because is a new teaching method is better than the current method. So this is a very fair problem. So we can think about this example starting with the alternative hypothesis first as a research question, because it's a new teaching method was developed. Then I believe that's better than I want to gather evidence to prove that is better than the current. So I would start with the alternative hypothesis. The new teaching method is better because the new teaching method, we don't know anything about it, and is a challenge for the current status quo, the current method, which is the null hypothesis. The null hypothesis says the new method is no better than the old method. The old method is the current state of affairs, is like the status quo, is what we have been doing forever. So nothing is better than what we have been doing in this case. and I want to challenge, I want to prove that the new teaching method is better. Okay, so we need to turn the problem into an alternative hypothesis and a null hypothesis. In this case specifically, and I'm going to show you other cases similar to this one, we can start with the alternative hypothesis because we have a research or development of something, and it's easier to show that this new teaching method or this new underdeveloped something is a challenge to what's happening now. Okay, let's take a look at the other example. A new Salesforce bonus plan is developed in an attempt to increase sales. Again, another fair problem, very common in companies. And we have two situations. The first situation is that we have a current bonus plan. And because we have a current bonus plan, we believe that this bonus plan is the best thing to do. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the current bonus plan, right? So when I say like that, I want you to understand what is the status quo for the problem, for the context. In this case, is that we have a bonus plan. And this current bonus plan would be related in the null hypothesis, and the alternative new bonus plan would be described the alternative hypothesis. Okay, but let's take a look how the hypothesis is developed. The null says the new bonus plan does not increase sales. We could complement saying the new bonus plan does not increase sales more than the current Salesforce bonus plan. Okay, or we could, in this case, we cannot assume that the new bonus plan increases sales. We have to assume that nothing increases sales, and as an alternative, the new bonus would increase sales. So I'm trying to prove that the new bonus plan increases sales. That's why I need that as an alternative. And the null, we always give like the chance of like a doubt, like in a trial. For example, I like to say this example in class. In a trial, in a judgment trial, people is always considered innocent until proven guilty, right? So in the law, in the court of law, we always have people under the null hypothesis. This is an example to see if you can understand this concept. So everyone is not guilty. That would be the null hypothesis. Everybody is innocent. The alternative hypothesis, the person is guilty. Okay, so that's like, then again, I want to highlight that the null hypothesis always assume that nothing is different, no one is guilty, nothing increases anything, everything is the same. The alternative hypothesis is the one that we want to prove. I want to show that it increases. I want to show that it's guilty. I want to show that it's better. Okay, so that's how you should think in terms of null and alternative hypothesis. Here again, a new drug is developed with the goal of lowering blood pressure. So I want to prove that the new drug lowers blood pressure. So my null hypothesis is that the new drug doesn't do anything better. The new drug does not have any effect. Okay, so the new drug does not do anything. The alternative, I want to prove the new drug lowers blood pressure. Okay, so this is what I have in these previous slides. It's not always obvious how the null and alternative hypothesis should be formulated. It is difficult. This part is not easy. You have to practice a lot, understand the context. The context of the situation is very important. Also, you have to know what the null is always about and what the alternative is always about. This is the reason I was like emphasizing and trying to make you understand. And sometimes it's easy to start with the alternative hypothesis first, because many problems, many applications in business management wants to gather evidence and support for something. We want to prove that announcing in TV sells more than announcing radio, for example. In such cases, it's often best to begin with the alternative hypothesis. This is what I was doing. Okay. The conclusion is that the search hypothesis is made if the sample. So if the sample, this is what we're going to learn in the next video. If the sample gives data that provides evidence into one or the other hypothesis, this is how we test it, like gathering sample data and testing. Okay, so let's see if I can talk about beginning the hypothesis formulation with the null hypothesis. We might begin with a belief or assumption that a statement about the value of a population parameter is true. That's what I was telling you at the beginning of this class. Like, we believe that we sell such amount of sales every day. We believe that customers are happy or customers are satisfied with our stores and our, let's say, sales force or whatever. Okay. So let's take a look at some null hypotheses as an assumption to be challenged. For example, the label on a soft drink bottle states that it contains 67.6 fluid ounces. So the label states that. That's the true nature of affairs. That's my null hypothesis. The label is correct. So the bottle has more than 67.6 ounces. The challenge is it does not. Is not correct. Okay, let's take a look at another one. The manager claims that customers buy less than $50 per store visit. So let's say that's very common. The manager says that customers don't buy us too much; they buy less than $50. Okay, this is what he believes. That's what he thinks is the true nature of affairs. So that's the null hypothesis. The challenge is no, they buy more. Okay. The ABC company has a customer satisfaction equal to 4 on a scale from 1 to 5. So this is what we say in the meetings. This is what everyone believes. But then in this case, this is the null hypothesis. The alternative is no, it's not. Customers are, their satisfaction is different from 4. Maybe they're less satisfied, maybe they're more satisfied, but it's not 4. Let's test it. Okay. Let me stop here and start a new video talking about the consequence of developing null and alternative hypothesis. Okay.